Hello, hello.
Hello.
Well, hi there, Reese Madigan. Thank you for joining us
Thank you
and organizing.
for coming to do this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. 20 years of filmmaking. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so for that, I drafted up 20 questions. We could have a bit of a fun way, but I might have snuck a few extra double questions in there. So we'll
That's
see
fine.
how it
Let's go for it. Yeah, I'm up for the challenge.
goes. Nice, nice. Um, So I didn't realize this one until recently, but I heard that like we both got introduced to film through a love for like a childhood love of nature documentaries, um, which is pretty cool. So can you explain more about that and kind of what it was about them that attracted you to film media?
Yeah, so it's funny. It actually began when I was born, funny enough, because I do remember very, very early age, being in my living room, watching animals on the TV. And, because the real career path I first wanted to go before filmmaking was I wanted to actually be a wildlife presenter because I am actually a huge and still am a massive David Attenborough fanatic. I mean, who
Mm,
isn't? I
the
mean, I
king.
used to, record all his documentaries on VHS. I used to collect all his, DVDs as the years went on, everything. And I still have a huge collection. But it was weird because when I was a kid and I watched him, I grew for that love of the animals and nature and presenting. But then I started to really fall in love with how those documentaries were being made. So
Mm,
I was always saying, like, how do they go off and do that? What do they do? And my mum and dad used to say to me, oh, it's camera tricks, because obviously I didn't know what editing meant or anything like that. So
mhm.
there was this camera tricks, camera tricks. And so that really intrigued me. And I was like, I want to go off and do that. I want to film animals and go off and film things. And so my love for film work kind of got through there, and obviously my mum and dad got me a camera when I was a kid, and I know because I used to live in the countryside, I used to go off and film actual wildlife, rabbits and foxes and birds and ducks and just everything like that was out in the country. And then as the years went on, and I was writing like my own documentary stories about the animal kingdom, it then turned from reality stories to fictional stories because I then started to get a love of the fictional side of stuff. And I thought, oh, what if I could tell different stories and make it fictional? Then, of course, my love for animation came along there. But then the script writing started, and then the filmmaking started. And as you can see, the rest kind of evolved along the way. So it started from loving animals to TV presenting to filming animals to writing real stories to fake stories, and then so on and so forth. So it was kind of evolutionary.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I love how you mentioned like animation kind of came in there. That makes a lot of sense when you say it out loud, like Wallace and Gromit and all of that, like animals.
I
Yeah.
grew up with that as well, so that was also another,
Yeah.
so yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And when you did make that jump into sort of filming fiction, like talk us through your first few films, the ones that you remember making, just how those stories popped into your head.
Well, it's so weird because it didn't start off with filming, it started off with drawing. As I said, animation kind of took over.
Mm.
And I did have this idea in my head when I was a very small kid. I don't know if it would get made today because it's quite cliched and it's very different. But basically, it was about a little girl who makes friends with a blue whale, and she goes off with this blue whale because she's this little girl. She makes friends with the whale. She's not allowed to go outside. She lives in the Arctic. It's very dangerous. She goes off with this whale because blue whales in this place are very rare, and so
Mm.
basically. They're very rare to see, and because they're the biggest animal in the world, they're very rare. And then the title was called The Whale and the Polar Bear because there was a polar bear in it that was stalking the little girl, and he was kind of like not as much like the Scrat of the film because he had his own story, but he was trying
Right.
to hunt the little girl, but he was less comical. He was
Mm.
actually it was kind of a serious animated film, really. It had sort of like Watership Down vibes to it.
But yeah, wow.
And the villain in it was a hunter who wanted to kill this blue whale because he killed every species of animal, but he still didn't kill the blue whale. And
Hmm.
the thing is, the darker side of it was I actually wrote that he was dying, and this was his last dying wish that he wanted to kill this whale before he
Wow.
perishes. So it was like a mission, like a bucket list thing.
Yeah.
And so he finds out there's a whale out there. He doesn't care about the little girl. He just wants to kill this whale. And then there's like this epic battle. between the whale and the hunter. And what happens is the polar bear is the one who ends up killing the hunter because he snuck on his plane. But the tragic story was because I mean, I'm kind of going through a bit. I don't think this film's going to get made, so it's fine. So, unfortunately, the hunter does kill the whale, and he does kill the
Oh,
polar bear. But the polar bear kills the hunter, luckily in time. But the little girl manages to get home. But as she goes home, it's like a year later, and there's a huge herd of blue whales that come outside her
mhm.
house, and there's a female polar bear with some cubs. So, it's basically
Yeah.
saying that, yeah, they do die, but, there's new life. But the little girl survives. She's totally fine. But yeah, that was the story. That was my entire story.
Yeah.
And I drew this. I actually drew
Ooh.
this, and I really wanted it to be my story. That I thought this will be my first animated
Mm.
project, um, but it never happened. It never happened, and so that's how it kind of started off at first. But then I didn't really officially make my own proper project until 2006, although it was announced in 2005, 20 years ago, because of production. That's why I start from 2005,
Yeah.
because that's where it all began. And it was called Horrorland, and it's on my YouTube channel now. I was 13 when I made it, and you can hear my 13-year-old voice in it, which sounds really awkward right now. But yeah, that was my first proper one that finally happened because when I was at school, I drew a lot. I do a lot of
Mm.
storyboards and a lot of comic books and stuff like that. And then they were like, "Oh, why don't we get you guys to do a stop motion animation film with just drawing?" So it was all cardboard and everything, and we came up with this idea of a parody horror film, zombies and everything. It was kind of like a 28 years later sort of film, although 28 days I should say, because 28 years didn't come out back then.
Yeah.
It was 28 days later, parody, kind of nutty, three characters trying to survive in a zombie tunnel. There was a Black Panther in it that also turns to a zombie. There's a zombie dog in it. It was kind of like Resident Evil-ish, but it was a very comical, fun film. And when it got selected for film festivals twice and it had an amazing achievement, that's when I said, yeah, this is now what I want to start doing. So,
Mhm.
not just animation, but filming and making films in general. So, that's when I said, right, do you know what? I've had the success with this project. Now I want to see
Mhm.
how far else I can go. And that's where it started off for me.
Yeah. I mean, that touches straight into my next question, which is sort of after you did start making films, like was it that instant sense of like this is what I want to do with my life, or were there other interests that you had as well that you thought maybe I'll do that at some point? And,
Well, yeah, I did. I mean, like I said, I never gave up the wildlife stuff.
mm,
I still was thinking like if I did want to go forward towards that, but then the filmmaking really did take over because as I was making my own documentaries, I still got into, oh yeah, but I don't really want to tell real life stories. I don't know what it was. I had more imagination in my head than I thought I did.
mm,
And so it was like, yeah, I can't do real life stuff. It has to be imaginary stuff. And yeah, and then what happened was, as I was getting older and my more love for film was growing. I mean, obviously, when I was about 13, I started watching more rated 12 movies and like King Kong and stuff like that, and I was getting more into that. And then as I hit the age of 15, I was watching like The Departed and lots of violent movies and gangster films. I mean, I remember when I first watched, I think it was Goodfellas. I actually watched that when I was about 14 years old, and I was like, yeah, this is a good film. And so the
mm,
love for film was growing. And then as the years went on, it then got into The Shining, Alien, Silence of the Lambs, Jaws. I was just constantly watching all these big blockbusters in my teens because, funny enough, my parents wouldn't allow me to watch them when I was younger. Although, funny enough, they did let me watch Gladiator, which was a bit weird. I grew up with Gladiator, and
oh,
that was a very
interesting.
violent film.
Yeah.
But yeah, they didn't let me watch Alien or Shining or anything. But then I can kind of understand because there was a few films that did scare me as a kid. I mean, Secret and Nim used to scare me when I was a kid and stuff like that. But as I got older, I started watching all these movies, and then I was like, the more I was watching, the more I was like, I want to make a film like that, and I want to make
Mhm.
a film, and that's how it grew. And then it just became a big developing obsession. And then I remember straight after Horrorland was done, I actually tried to apply for film courses, film schools, animation courses, but funny enough, none of them got back to me. I don't know why. None of them got back to me. And so after that, I obviously had to go to college, and then I had to learn media there. And I, because school never taught me anything. And so after I left school, went to college, and then that's where it kind of developed further into the education side of it all.
Yeah. And so you didn't go to film school, but you studied it at college. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Or
I learned a lot in college about film and media and stuff, and also like I read books. You know, I mean, I
yeah.
used to read a lot of books, and you know, I learned a few things, and but then, you know, obviously then after college, I went to university. I mean, because at college I learned a few short. I did a few short films there as well, like you know, student films and stuff like that. And then obviously university come along, and then I learned a lot more in uni. Like I knew what a dirty shot was, which
Right.
I'd never heard of, and now I knew what it was. I was like, oh, okay, I thought it was something else, but whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but, um, but yeah, there was some. I learned a lot about camera shots in university. I learned a lot
Mm,
more about you know how some of the editing works and stuff like that you know so you know
mm,
I learned a lot of stuff as it went on like yeah I learned a little bit in college but university gave me more and then as I've gone over the years I'm still
mhm.
learning some more bits and I'm still researching and stuff and so I'm kind of learning more along the way as I'm still carrying on in these 20 years.
Yeah. And in terms of that, the kind of world of study versus the world of learning by sort of making films and things, what are some of your bigger takeaways? Do you have, thoughts if if younger people ask you, like, should I study? Should I not study? Do you have any say in that debate or?
No, they should definitely study, absolutely.
Yeah.
But what I think people should do now, because the world has changed completely, not because
Mm,
of COVID or anything. I'm talking about way after. What before when I started, everyone was like, "Oh, you need to be a runner," but that's nothing now. No one ever talks about that. And the reason I would never be a runner is because for one thing, you don't know how long you're going to be a runner. You know, you could start being a runner when you're age 20 and you might end up being a runner till you're like 40 or 50. And I don't want to do that. I'd rather start now. And what
yeah.
I'm happy about is I didn't listen to anyone when everyone said be a runner, start there. No, because I thought if I go off and make my own projects now and show my techniques early, even if they're zero budget, if they're on the internet, if they're in film festivals, then at least I've said, look, this is what I'm doing. This is how my skills are. But I will say to people, yeah, this was zero budget. But can you imagine what it would have been like if I had a budget and what I can do in the future? Because
Mm,
I think nowadays with film, it's not about, oh, where you start. It's more, what can you give? And I think
yeah.
nowadays that's what it's about with film. It's nowadays, what can you give us? Because I don't
Mm,
think Hollywood or anywhere else cares about where you start now. Like nowadays, most people start somewhere and they still don't get anywhere. And so I think it's look, this is what I've made, this is what I can bring, but imagine what I can do if I was there. And it's kind
mm,
of like trying to convince them. So it's more about convincing. So yeah, study film, know your stuff, but once you know your stuff, just go off and do what you got to do. Get a camera, get some
mm,
acting friends, get some filmmaking friends, get together, get off and make a film. Doesn't matter how small the budget, or even if it's zero, go off and make that film and show what you can make it. Because Martin Scorsese himself and Quentin Tarantino both said the best film school is making your own film, even if it's zero
mm.
budget.
Yeah. And that advice is really applicable as well to, I mean, how you said how the business has changed. Also, runner for people who might not be in the industry yet, or it's like like a PA or the kind of push around person on a film set, right? Who does
Absolutely.
everything. Not an actual runner. Although
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes, yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's really applicable to how the industry has changed as well, in that technology is now so available to people. They can do that. So it's
yeah.
yeah, technology will constantly keep updating, but yeah, massive roles on roles on massive film sets might not. Um, but jumping ship slightly, friends and fans of yours will know that you're you've got this sort of infectious love of horror like movies and genre. You've already named a few of them. um, but when did that start, and what was it kind of about that genre that you thought really attracted you or pulled you in?
I think I've always said this. I've always thought horror has always been in my DNA because I
Mm,
used to love watching films that did scare me. like I said, Secret and Nim was one of them. There was loads of Disney films that used to scare me. Lion King used to scare me. Even Lady and the Tramp. Snow White was quite terrifying. Pinocchio. They were very terrifying, and they
Mm,
still are quite terrifying, dark movies. I mean, I'm really surprised that today they've not been banned because they're really dark, but
mm,
they were quite terrifying films. And I used to love kind of the thrill being scared, and then as the years went on, and I was watching sort of like like King Kong and stuff like that, I was like, oh, I kind of like these films, these horror monster movies and horrors going, and so it started developing slowly, slowly, and then when I was 17, I finally got to watch my favorite movie of all time, The Shining. And I remember, because when I was a kid, I always loved telling this little history. Because when I was a young kid, and we all remember the great blockbuster video shops, I remember I picked up
R.I.P.
a VHS of The Shining. I was just looking at it. I wasn't trying to. I just was looking at it, and I remember my dad saw me with it, and he ran up and snatched it off my hands. He said, "You never ever watch this film ever." And I was like, "Why?" And he said, "Don't ever watch this film ever." And as the years went on, he was telling me about it, and he said it used to terrify my dad. And I
Mm,
remember thinking, because as a kid, you think nothing scares your parents. So my
mm.
intrigues was, what's in that film that scares your parents? That's what I was intrigued with. So it really fascinated me that I really wanted to see this film to find out what was so scary about it. And so when I was 17, I went to my nan's house, and this was back in 2009. And I just arrived at her house, and what I used to do is I used to see what was on TV to watch in the night, and The Shining was on that night, and I was like, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to go for it. And so I remember I text my dad, and I said to him, just to let you know, I'm going to be watching The Shining. I know you told me never to watch it, but I'm going to do it, and I'll let you know what I think. And I thought he was going to text me, don't you dare turn it off. Whether he didn't, he actually texted me back, fine, but good luck not having any nightmares. And I thought, well, we'll see. And when I watched it, I mean, honestly, it just completely took my breath away. It just really surprised, like how it was done. I mean, I never saw a movie like it. I mean, I watched quite a lot of films just before then, but nothing like that had ever impacted me more in my life. And it was everything: the cinematography, Jack Nicholson's performance,
Mm.
the isolation, the fear. There was so many things in it that really got into my skin. But I remember just laying there not long after I watched it, and I was just like, "This movie is just incredible. Like, it's just intrigued me." And I was like, I have to get this movie. And I brought the DVD not long after, and I was watching it many times not long after to try and just analyze this film. And every time I was watching it, there was always something else. That's what made the movie amazing. The more you watch it, the more surprises you get. And after that, I remember saying to myself, that is a movie that I want to make. And I love horror, and I want to watch more horror. So after that, I did. I ended up watching Alien and Jaws and the Conjuring, and as the years went on, I was just watching more and more horror films.
Mm.
And obviously now I know friends who love horror. My wife loves horror, and that it's great that now that I can share my love of horror with people who love it, and of course my wife, because me and my wife we love to go see horror films in the cinema. Like if there's a new one and we know it's going to be good, we're like, yeah, we're going to go. And it's either the reaction of, oh my god, that's the best horror film of the year, or we'll come out and go, that was crap.
Yeah. Yeah. It does, horror kind of has something very theatrical about it. Like it reminds me of theater itself on the stage of like it is either really, really good or
Yeah.
sort of a bit average.
And what
But
I love as well, just very quickly, is that how they've changed it, because you had in the early 2000s the slasher movies and the teen films and the very cliche ones. But I think since I'd say 2009, I kind of like that now they've changed it more to psychological stuff. Like you got the
mm,
Babadook, you got Us, you got Nope, you got Get Out, you got Oculus, you got Doctor Sleep,
yeah.
you got oh god, there's just so many to name. But the amount, I mean, Hereditary and Midsummer as well,
Mm,
like just those movies in one are just like big psychological like fun horrors that really unsettle you. And I just think that they've really turned a corner. And it's no wonder why horror nowadays is getting more popular.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good question. Um, why do you think?
I definitely
Yeah.
think they've turned a lot better. Yeah.
Yeah. And then similarly, I'd say your style like also has a lot of comedy in it. It's really funny. And it has that kind of 90s sketch comedy like start like something in me gets very reminiscent when I watch your films of like yeah, more sort of 90s and that silly humor that is just it's good, it's wholesome, it's a straight laugh. It's but yeah, when did that sort of develop? Was it something you tried to get into? Is it just something that's inherently been in your writing?
Well, funny enough, I grew up with sitcoms. Funny
Mm,
enough, along with films, I also grew up with sitcoms. My dad and my mum used to watch Only Fools and Horses, Open All Hours, Porridge. But the biggest sitcom that, again, I wasn't supposed to be watching, but I did, was Bottom. Now, funny enough, I didn't understand most of the jokes, but I loved the slapstick in Bottom.
mm,
Because it was just about two blokes beating the crap out of each other. But as I grew older and I was watching and I understood more, they became funnier and funnier because I understood what the jokes were. And obviously, Rick Mail, he was a genius. He was the best comedian out there. Honestly, I still watch him to this day, and he still makes me laugh, even though he's no longer with us. I still watch him in Bottom. I still watch him in Young Ones. I still watch him in Man Down. And what was amazing with him was his facial expressions and how
mm,
he delivered his lines. I mean, in Bottom, he's just nuts, and it's just how he executes his face and his expressions. And I just loved him, and I fell in love with that comedy. But saying that as well, I did grow up watching also American comedy. I mean, Plane, Trains, and Automobiles is one of my favorite movies. Or, John Candy and Grey Outdoors, and Trading Places is one of them as well. And obviously, I love The Hangover and Horrible Bosses, and there's and Shaun of the Dead.
mm.
Um, oh, what's that? No, thank you. Sorry, I was offered a cup of tea.
Oh,
Um, so
I got on here.
that's fine. I've got a cold drink. It's too hot for tea. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, so just to my point, yeah, there was Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and all that. So yeah, I grew up with loads of comedies, and I love comedy because I'm a positive person. The humor gets me through all the depressing
Mhm,
stuff, and obviously I love Ricky Gervais as well, and I love Seth MacFarlane's Family Guy, and the reason I love those comedies as well is because unfortunately they do the jokes that we're not allowed to say anymore. Because
mm,
nowadays we live in such a sensitive world, and I should know that because I've been writing a lot of comedies, and nowadays I'm not allowed to write what I'm not supposed to be writing. But the thing is, this is what Ricky Gervais says, and I mean I follow him because he's true. Because first of all, just because you're offended, it doesn't mean you're right, and secondly, you can joke about whatever you want because if you don't make something that was negative into a positive and flip it over, you're going to go through life just going through, oh, everything's negative. And
mm,
it's also like he said a really another good quote. This was brilliant. He said, "It's funny how people get offended over jokes about war and cancer and murder when they actually should be offended about murder, cancer, and war. Like they should
mm,
be offended about the realism of that rather than the jokes of that, because the realism is more serious than the jokes." And
mm,
and I thought that's true. They'd rather be offended about the joke side of it, the positive side, rather than joke about the realism of that. And
mm,
and Ricky and Seth, and I mean, God, the stuff they put in. I mean, God, when Ted come out and the jokes in that were like, whoa, but everybody was laughing. And I
mm,
was like, I loved it because they did not hold back, and
mm,
that's what more we need. And even Seth has said, look, if you don't like a joke about a teddy bear smoking pot, saying something that might be a bit too racist or sexist or whatever, then you know where the remote is. Turn it
mm,
off. And it's true because at the end of the day, no one's forcing you to watch those comedies.
mhm,
No one forces anyone to watch my comedies, and I don't force people to watch my stuff. But at the end of the day, that's why I did the bucket, which I could talk about in the future. But just to say, like, I'm making a comedy, a dark comedy, and if you don't like jokes in it, then do you know what? You know where to go. And that's why I protect my actors now, because after everyone's been offended by so many stupid things, even the stuff that isn't jokes, it's just trying to tell a story. That's when I go, right, you know what? I'm going to write this script. And I don't care what anyone says. And if I do get someone who complains about something stupid, I just go, right, then, do you know what? You know what you can do. There's the door.
Not
And
for you.
that's it now.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In terms, so yeah, I mean that's in terms of people who don't like your films, but in terms of like what do you want audiences to leave feeling? Like, what's your sort of hope when you are making a film? The kind of reaction you want to get, or
Well,
connection with the audience you want?
I just want to make people laugh, and I want people to look at my films because I try to make my films, positive and make feels good. I mean, I do a lot of comedies, and I think I've done really well with the previous stuff I've done. I mean, me and Charlie did Archie and Jim, which was very bottom inspired, and everybody loved that. In fact, we definitely got a really good impact with that series. And then, of course, I just recently did Outsmarted, and I'm doing a new series soon, and everybody loved that, because that was a comedy and that was showing some really funny sides to it. And I want people to look at my stuff and think, yeah, good, and oh, this is interesting and funny. I don't want people to look at it and go, oh, this is what it, where, I mean, people can think what they want, but I just want people to look at my stuff and have a nice, good feeling, think, oh, yeah, that was
Yeah.
good. Yeah, that was nice, and then they can carry on with their day. And then, there's no drama, there's no, and everyone can just get on with their lives. But like I said, if no one's interested in that sort of stuff, then fine, go ahead and watch your cat videos. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and in terms of writing, like, do you have the whole narrative kind of planned out when you sit down, when you start writing, or yeah, like, do you know what all the outcomes are going to be? Are you a discover it as you write write it kind of person?
It depends what I'm writing. So, for instance, if I'm doing a movie, I will plan a lot into that in terms of the story. Because the good thing is about me at the moment is I've got no one controlling me. So I can control everything in terms of the film. So
Yeah.
I know what I want. Um, so, in terms of the filmmaking, writing side of the movie, that takes what I do is I write a lot of notes and I think, okay, this is the structure. Then I write a draft. And then as the time goes on, I think, oh, actually, we could add that in. And then I change the draft. I think with film, with movie in particular, my drafts take about, I'd say, 10 drafts in total to say, okay, I'm happy with this. Because I know
Wow.
this is a zero budget project anyway. There's nothing more I can do with it. So I think, right, this will do. This is doable for me and for the cast. Um, in terms of short films, they're easier because I can just say, oh, I've got this idea. And most of my short films are set in one location. So I'll say, right, I've
Mm.
got this short film set in here. It's going to take a day to shoot. And I'll have this idea ready. And sometimes it can be even one draft or even three drafts because the short films, depending on the style, I'll just go, do you know what? That's my idea. That will do. But if it's a film festival one, then again, it's about another 10 drafts and it's different locations, but that's taken with more of a lot of care because
Mm.
obviously with a film festival project, you want to make sure the sound's good, the actors are good, locations are good, directing is good, editing is good, and of course the writing. Um, and in terms of a series, so for Outsmarted, for instance, so as the showrunner, as I call myself, I practically basically do everything. I write every page of the script, I direct every episode. When it comes to every episode, I think, right, how many numbers are there going to be? And I think, right, okay, in episode one, this could be included. And then I go along each episode, and I plan the show along the way. And I think, yeah, that's the concept. I mean, like for example, with series one, we had a gangster war that went wrong. Series two had a serial killer. Series three was about family betrayal, and series four is going to focus on a mother and son toxic relationship. Um,
Interesting.
so, in terms of the writing, so for example, if it's 6 episodes, I'll have about 3 scripts prepared, and then I'll think, right, okay, this is enough to convince the actors if they want to do it, and I'll have the mid, beginning, middle, the end, and then of course I cast the show and have a very strong relationship with each actor, and also I edit the project and I'm in it as well as Red Fox, and I film the damn thing as well. So it's there's
Full
a
trade.
there's I pretty much, yeah, I'm heavy handed, but with the writing, it's yeah, it's literally taking it step by step. But luckily, with Outsmarted, what I do is I note everything first with each episode, and then I jump into the writing and I go, right, okay, episode one, that's a good one. Episode two, right, okay, maybe put a bit of episode three in there, change something in episode three, and then change it like that. So yeah, it kind of goes chop by chop by chop.
All right. And I can see some of your like because you are a writer director and everything else, but yeah, writer director. I can see how that they play off each other a lot. You're already talking about how you're thinking of shots and how you're thinking of like how you're going to shoot it and locations and all of that as you're writing as well. But how have you noticed your writing style change over these last 20 years? If you can think back to the whale drawings, but even the films sort of after that one.
Yeah, funny enough, this is a funny story. So I found one of my old projects I did back in college a long time ago, and it's so bad. I mean, like it was filmed on a camcorder, sound was awful, and the writing as well. Yes, because I remember watching it, and the dialogue was absolutely dreadful, and I remember watching it going, "Did I used to write like that? Seriously?" And there was one bit of dialogue I remember watching. There was just it was a little bit, but it came out, and I remember because I hadn't seen this project in such a long time. I almost died laughing, and I just couldn't stop laughing so hard, and I was like, why on earth did I write that? What is that? Like that is terrible, and I'm like, thank God my writing is so much better now because what I tend to do is I mean, one of my biggest inspirations is Fargo, the TV series, and Noah Hawley is an absolute fantastic scriptwriter. And what I do is I look how he writes his scripts and how his dialogue is executed on that series.
Mm,
And I look at that and I go, I want to write like that. I want to be
mm.
like how he's writing and see how it gets it. So yeah, so when I know that I need some good writing, I just have to watch an episode of Fargo to get inspired about how can I execute my dialogue like that, how he does it.
Nice. I'm aware we've got 5 minutes left, but I'll sneak another question and we'll see where we go.
Yeah,
But this also feels very much like like I'm an actual journalist. I'm like, I've only got you for
I
half an
love
hour.
it. I love it.
Yeah.
You're doing amazing. It's good.
But yeah, how like you do it all, writing, acting, directing, as you've said. But why, yeah, why not work with a crew, or is that something you want to do moving forward?
Well, it's not that I don't work with a crew. Charlie and Megan and a few friends will help me if they can, but this is the problem. First of all, they all live in different places. I have one who lives in Milton Keynes, one who lives in Haywards Heath. I have people that live in Kent. I have people that live in Hertfordshire. And it's not the fact that I don't want to work with them. If it was up to me, I would work with them every day. Trust me. I wish I had my
Hmm.
own studio and everything. But unfortunately, we've all got different lives. We're all busy. We've all got stuff going on. We're all not available. We're still at that point where we're working in jobs that we probably don't want to be in. We're working in places that are good career changes, but they still maybe want to do filmmaking or something like that, you know. But that's the problem. We're just not all available. And so for me, I'm constantly like, right, if I've got a film I want to make, I will go off and make it. And there is a saying, if you want something done right, you can do it yourself. And I do. And that's great. But no, my mission in future is to work with a crew, yes. But in the past, I've worked with crews, and sometimes it's not a great experience. I've had some very nasty experiences, but recently I actually haven't had that bad experiences. But it's just finding the right people.
Yeah.
But trust me, if it was up to me, and like I said, if I was working in a film studio right now, I would have DOPs, cameramen, producers, and maybe another script writer involved. You know, executive producers, supervisors, whatever, like wherever, you know, just anybody who's around. And I would love that. I mean, when I do eventually get my own studio, that's what my aim is. Um, but at the moment, because I'm still building up a portfolio and I've got no one really else around. But saying
Yeah.
that though, At the minute, what I'm doing is I'm in the middle of a course called Filmmaking Business, and I'm trying to sort out this script to pitch for distributors. And I got to do like a pitch and everything. And luckily, I've asked three people, you and Charlie and Megan, to say, look, I'm going to do this pitch one day. Will you guys be able to just look at this pitch, or can I pitch this in front of you? And I need some feedback. And so, despite not having a crew, they're always welcome to help me, and they like to help me. And they always say, look, if you ever need anything, let us know. And that's what I do. I'll ring them up and say, right, look, guys, I've got this thing, and then they'll come and help me. And whenever they are available, I will say, sometimes I'll phone Megan and say, right, Megan, can you come out and film this scene for me quickly? And, she'll come and do it. And, so it's not that we don't have a crew, we don't work. It's just like I said, we've all got different lives, we've all got different things going on. But when we do get together, it's amazing. And I've had some fantastic memories in my 20 years working with everybody. And I have met some really talented, creative people. But like I said, whenever I think I need to get started, because there's no time like the present. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, you can't always wait on everybody. And I've learned that, believe me. So for me, it's like, right, I'm just going to go off and do what I need to do with whoever's available, get it done, and then I'll know. And then, yeah, but like I said, whenever the help's needed, they're there. But when they're not, it's fine. I'm happy more than ever to go off and do it on my own.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to what you were saying for film students and things is just just get out there, just start making, you know.
Yes, literally, yes. No time like the present.
And we'll quickly finish with this one, and then I'll pick up again on another call. But it's a cheeky one. So you've done a few more films, I think, since we last shot together, including today. But the last film I shot with you was False Fortunes.
Yeah.
Um, but do you know what number film that was? Have you fully lost track at this point?
I think that's number 42.
Okay, wow. Man. So we're more than 42 now. It's been, yeah, you're already working on something else. That's very impressive for 20 years. Awesome. Shall we close this one off and then we'll pick up on another one?
100%.
Great. I will see you very soon.
So,
There we go. So, right, right where we left off. You've done 42 or more than 42 films. So of that impressive filmography, what are sort of, this is a hard question, but what are kind of five that you would say would be your standout for any reason, good or bad, like where you've learned something, things that you'd suggest audiences go and watch first if they needed to get a kind of sense of who you are as a filmmaker? Like what would five be that kind of jump out to you for different reasons?
so basically, my top five that I've done.
Yeah.
Right, okay. It's weird because I've done a lot of different films. Yeah, they're comedy, horrors, or thrillers, whatever. So, but there's also a few serious ones I've done, especially autism awareness projects. So my top five. So I'm going to say, and this is by the way, no in no order. I'm not saying this is best, this is
Mm-hmm.
worst. Well, this is just five that have come into my head. So the first one that comes into my head is my most successful film, Scripting, because it's a story about Eddie who is lonely because obviously he's non-verbal, he doesn't speak, and he feels lonely and he feels like he's not accepted in the world because of his autism. And then one day he meets this beautiful woman called Patricia, and he falls in love, and she accepts him, even though he doesn't speak. She accepts him, and he thinks, well, the world is bright again. And then, unfortunately, there's a very sad moment that happens near the end of the film, and it kind of puts a whole spin on everything. But the message of that film is basically, live life and make sure you show the loved ones that you love them because you don't know how long you're going to have. It was a very personal, emotional project because it was basically my worst fear of what would happen if I lost the love of my life. And that's why I wrote it. And I'm not going to lie, when I was filming it, I was actually crying while making it. It was the first film I actually sobbed at while I was making it. But it was, luckily people did feel it, and it was quite fun to make them cry for once rather than make them laugh. So yeah, that was interesting. That was very interesting. So yeah, scripting definitely number one. Number two, I would say, I would probably say my Outsmarted series, and I'm talking about it as a whole, not one, two, or
Mhm.
three. So as a whole, because for one thing, it's the most fun project I ever loved doing. I love doing Outsmarted. It is one of my favorite projects of all time. It's one of the most fun projects I love doing. It's a project that I love doing that I can write, edit, film, and I love doing all of that with this. It's weird because sometimes with some films, I don't like filming. I don't like going on location. I don't like working with certain actors, and it's like, oh, But um, with Outsmarted, there has never been a dull day, which is amazing. Like Outsmart seems to bring me loads of good luck. So and not only that, but the series itself has evolved. I mean, you've got this detective who's a complete dumb character, but as he slowly evolves, he starts to see different perspectives of life. But it's just fun. It's just a fun series. It's a comedy. It's dark. It's silly. And it's just unique. I tried to make something with a bit of a spin on it, and I like that it's black and white. It's set in 1940s, and it's definitely one of the most fun projects I've ever done. So if you want a good laugh, you've got that. Um, so number three, I would probably say for number three. Oh God, this is getting a bit difficult now. But I think number three, I'll go for Cash in the Pond for these reasons, right? Okay, this is the weirdest thing. It's not my best feature film, but yet for some reason, it's become my most watched. And I think watching it back now, it was definitely the most fun film I've ever made. So of all my feature films, Cash in the Pond was definitely the most fun. There was loads of fun vibes, fun people. The story's fun. It's kind of like a very twist of a very bad kidnapping story. And yeah, and to be honest, it came out a bit better than I thought. I mean, it could have been a slightly bit better, but I was pretty proud of it. But funny enough, I didn't think people was even going to like it. But yeah, it's become, as I said, my most watched feature film, and I still don't understand why. But I'm proud that it is, and that's what I mean. So that one, I would definitely say again, if you want another crazy laugh, definitely Cash in the Pond. Um, Number four, I would probably say the Donkey, another Eddie autism awareness film, because I think with that one, it's got a lovely little story. It raises awareness for autism, talks about discrimination and stuff like that. Very important lessons. And finally, number five. Um, for number five, I would probably have to go for the Archie and Jim series because you can't get any more wackier than what I made with those lot. And we have great memories making those characters. I mean, it's a shame we're no longer doing them anymore, but we have to move on. And but looking back, if you just want something that's going to hopefully give you a good laugh and probably cure your depression, I think Archie and Jim works because sometimes I put it on and I still look back and go, oh yeah, that was always fun. And so yeah, I'd probably say those are my standout films that out of
Mm.
everything because they definitely had the biggest impact on me personally.
Mm. Nice. If you could go back and kind of revisit one, maybe reshoot it or expand on the world in another kind of follow-up, which one would it be?
Too many,
Doesn't have to be those five, but
yeah,
anything.
yeah. I was gonna say too many to name, but
Yeah.
it depends because, like I said, if I had a budget, they would be so much better. Of course they would, but it's fine because this is my portfolio. But I think if I had to go back and do a reshoot, I'd probably go back and do The Wonders of the Looking Glass because, funny enough, we did The Wonders of Alice the year before,
Mm.
and the world was a happier time. This was before COVID. We had a good time making that, great vibes, great actors, great moments. But weirdly enough, before this was a year before COVID, but before we had all that, when I was doing the Wonders of the Looking Glass, there was a lot of negativity from people. I don't know what it was. It was like something was up in the air that time, and making that film was not as fun as I hoped it was going to be. Don't get me wrong, there were some fun days, especially with Charlie and Sammy and Charlotte and a couple of others, but there was just a few people that came on set, and it was just there was a lot of anger and miserable times, and I
Mm.
don't know what it was, but like I said, there was definitely something up in that air that obviously people were not in a very fun filmmaking mood.
Mhm.
So if I could go back, I would definitely probably get more of a happier bunch of people.
No, that's it's actually encouraging to hear you say that because as someone who's worked on film crews and things, like you sort of think maybe the director doesn't notice this or they're so busy they're off doing their thing. You kind of yeah, it's interesting to hear that you do pick up on it and it does influence your memories of that shoot and things.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, you mentioned your character of Eddie, and yeah, he has appeared in like quite a few of your short films and series and things. But what is it about him that keeps you writing more and sort of revisiting that world and character?
I love Eddie. I love him. I wish he was real because I wish I could give him a hug, and I say
Mm.
everything's okay because I feel like I put him through a lot, bless him. But do you know what? He's my avatar to the world, really, because
Mm.
he's kind of like to say, this is some things that I've experienced and some of the things that have happened to other autistic people, and this is sort of my love letter to autism awareness to say, look, we're sick
Mm.
of being discriminated, we're sick of not being accepted.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, we're human beings as well, and we just want to be loved. And I mean, personally for me as well, like there are times where I've always felt like a burden. I've always felt like, why am I even here? Like, why? What is the point if people don't like me because of who I am? Then maybe I should just disappear forever. But I've learned to know that there are people out there who do love me,
Mm.
accept me for who I am. I've got my family, I've got my friends, I've got my wife, and that's all I need to love me. I don't give a shit about the strangers, the postman, people at work, anything like that. All I care about is family and friends. They love me, then I'm happy, and then that's all I need to carry on for. But Eddie, it was such a weird thing because when I first done the donkey, it was it was basically like it was weird. It was like, I'd done that as it was kind of a risk film to make. Um, and I was like, how do I do this? And, I didn't know if it was going to work. I really didn't know if it was going to work. I didn't think people were going to want to do it. But it was amazing when I did do it and I had Megan as a crew member because that's when I first met her. And she was so supportive of this. It was amazing because what worried me was I was going to have some crew members come on and they were not going to
Mhm.
know what the fuck this was. And or they were going to look at this and go, this is ridiculous. It's about an autism who's wearing a donkey suit and he's gone off. It doesn't make sense. But
Mm.
what I'm trying to do, this is the problem. Because of my autism point of view, I'm trying to come up with original material to describe the reasons of making it.
Mm.
But despite there were a few people going, I don't quite get it. It doesn't really mention autism awareness. I say to them, well, do you know what? It does from my perspective, maybe if not from yours, but it does for me. But then I'll say to them, how about you watch the film again and maybe you
Mm.
understand? And when people say they still don't get it, I go, then well, you're not watching the film. So
Mm.
that's what I say to them. So yeah, the donkey was a bit of a risk, but luckily I had some of the cast members very supportive. They understood what this was. And then when the success, well, it had a sort of success, the donkey, not on film festivals, but on YouTube. It done really
Mm.
well on YouTube because everybody wanted to see it. And because of the praise, people were saying, you should do another one with this character. And
Mm.
I was like, yeah, but what else can I do with Eddie? And then I kind of went back on some of my previous experiences in life. And then, of course, I thought about scripting. As I said, my worst fear, losing my wife.
Mm.
I'm going to write that. Like, how would I deal with that? And that's what I use Eddie for. But scripting success was something I did not expect at all. I mean, the fact that 6 film festivals chose it and the fact I was nominated for Best Director and Best Film, I was really, really shocked. I didn't think
Mm.
scripting was going to go anywhere. And I thought they're going to look at this like that they did with the donkey. and shove it in the bin. No, 6 film festivals, nominated twice. That's when I was like, people love Eddie. They love him.
Mm.
So he's got to have more. And so then I tried to do discrimination. That did not work out. Then I jumped to the next one, alienation, and that is now hopefully going to go into film festivals. Luckily, the praise for that was also really good. Um, but funny enough, I did a Christmas special with him in 2023 called Christmas Threes, and coincidentally, this is how much I think I know people love Eddie because that has now become my most watched Christmas special as of 2025.
Okay. Nice. I mean, he is a very lovable character. I can say that from my own my own watching. Um, but yeah, I mean, you touched on it here already, but it's more of a personal question. But you are very open about the fact you are autistic and kind of your experiences with that in person on social media. You bring them into your films and with your characters and things. Um, as I was writing your questions for this, I had somebody come up to me and do that thing of going, "Oh, as a female writer, what's your opinion on this?" And I just thought, "Oh gosh, okay." But it then made me wonder, is that something that happens to you, and how do you navigate it if people then look at you because you are supportive and sort of bring awareness to things? Do you then get sort of pigeonholed in if people go, as an autistic filmmaker, do you feel this way when you've obviously written stories that cover so much more and like, yeah, breaking into all kind of genres and everything. But yeah, like how do you navigate with that? Do you just not listen to them? Any
Yeah, I
tips for
mean,
those
I
of
mean,
us?
I mean, I don't listen to anyone who thinks that they know, oh, how does an autistic person make a film?
Mhm.
I'm still a filmmaker. It doesn't matter. I mean, look at Stanley
Yeah.
Kubrick. I think he had autism. You look at Christopher Nolan. Look how he makes his projects.
Mm.
You look at David Fincher. Look how he made his films. I don't. There's so many filmmakers who do different things. I mean, Ari Aster, he does different movies. Alex Garland, he done different movies. And
Mhm.
at the end of the day, original is better and unique is better.
Mhm.
And if I have an idea and that's why I always go for original material. I like to go for things that are different, outside the box, over the top, different things. And yeah, I do get that's weird. Why should you make that? Why? What does that doesn't make sense? Well, what's all that about? But then I think, well, do you know what? Fine, criticize it, but I bet when you watch it, you're going to know what I'm after. And then
Mm.
it's that old chestnut of you say, oh, I'm going to make this, and they'll look and go, that looks rubbish, go away. And then I
Mm.
make it, then they watch it, and they're going, oh, I see now. And I'm like, yeah, see, and then they look back and they're like, oh, actually, that wasn't too bad. And I think, yeah, but you didn't like the idea, and so yeah, I get loads of criticism for my original material, and sometimes, like I said, I've had actors who read the scripts, they take it out of context and whatever, but I don't care anymore because now I've got to a point where if we're going to adapt in this crazy world, get crazier.
Yeah. Yeah, and that confidence as well of just sort of prove them wrong, show them afterwards, and see.
Exactly.
Yeah. Um, we are very slowly in this crazy world, kind of starting to see more representation on screen and things. But kind of how do you think people or film collectives, film festivals, groups that you're sort of constantly kind of applying to and things, how do you think they can better support independent filmmakers, like, yeah, alternative creators, like whatever name you want to call us, but those of us who are
Yeah.
sort of on the
The
outside.
peasants are the filmmakers. That's what.
Yes, yeah.
Well, they should just be more supportive and take risks because at the end of
Hmm.
the day, a film is a film. And it doesn't matter if you filmed it on your mobile phone, doesn't matter if you filmed it on your laptop, doesn't matter if you filmed it using a mirror. At the end of the day, um, a film is a film, and there are so many unique films that have been made in certain ways that they should just take a chance with it. To me, it's all about the story. Sometimes it's not about how the film is made, it's about the story. It's like, for instance, the movie Skinamarink. People hate that movie, but I love it because it's terrifying and it's unique and there is a story. I mean, yes, the movie's a little long. It could have been an hour and 20 minutes. I will admit that. But I understand what it was trying to do. And
Mm.
again, it's like that old chestnut. He made it. People didn't get it. they were like, this is boring, it's stupid, it's nothing here. But I knew, but from the unique point of view, I knew what he was doing, and I loved it. When I first
Mhm.
watched it, I thought it was very unique because it's not a cliched horror. It's something very different. And don't forget as well, he made a film on a very low budget, $15,000 he made it on, and yet he managed to get his budget. And I mean, the film grossed over $2 million in the box
Mm.
office. So, despite the hate, it still got noticed, and that's what they
Mhm.
were saying. So it still had social media attention and everything. So it just makes you think that, you know, sometimes the most unique movies, despite the negative impact, will get the more attention. I mean,
Mm.
if you look at the Human Centipede, for instance, I mean, when they made that movie, I mean, yeah, a lot of people don't like that movie, but I love the first Human Centipede film because it was original, it
Mhm.
was different, it was taking risks, and they had a really, really good villain. Like,
Mm.
I mean, Dr. Hyter was absolutely terrifying. And I remember watching this, I was like, there has never been a good horror villain in a long time. And he comes along and I was like, oh my God, who's this actor? And I was reading about her and I was like, she's amazing. And he really made that character incredible because it was just something so different. And his look and his casting was just impeccable. And that's why I like it because it was original and it was
Mm.
different. And this is what annoys me. Nowadays, people moan Hollywood does too many remakes, Hollywood does too many sequels. We want original. They get original, and then it's either too disgusting, too weird, it's boring, or they just don't get it. So we can't win.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. So sort of keep the doors open and yeah, stop putting things in boxes maybe or being less quick to label things. Jumping ship a little bit, you also have your own radio show. Um, it's
Yes.
very left field. I know we're talking about film, but
No,
tell us
no,
more
that's
about that.
also
And
another part of my.
yeah, but yeah, t tell us more about that and why radio. What is it you love about that?
Radio came completely unexpectedly. I had no hopes of being a radio presenter whatsoever. I do love radio. I did when I was a kid. I used to listen to music all the time, and radio was a fun thing to listen to. But to get on it was a completely different kettle of fish.
Mm.
And I remember, so it all began back when I lived in Milton Keynes, and I remember when I used to live there, I went to college and I had this college tutor named Joe West, big Jamaican fella, lovely fella though, lovely fella, and he saw something in me. He sort of took me under his wing, and said to me, "Man, you've got a really good radio voice. You should do radio." And I was like, "Yeah, right." And I was like 18 at the time. And I thought, who on earth is going to want to listen to an 18-year-old chat about crap on the radio? I didn't even know what to talk about on the radio. And but he hounded me. He went after me for ages. He was begging me. He was texting me, ringing me. Every time I was in college, he was like, "You're going to do radio. You're going to do radio." I was like, "Oh my God." He just wouldn't give up. So one day we met up because I had a project to work on with him, and he kept nudging me, come on, do it, do it." So I gave him, and I said, "Okay, look, fine. I'll give it a go." I said, "But listen," I said, "I want to have my own show. I want full control. I want to know who I can co-host it with, etc." And I said, "I'm going to make a list." And I said, "If you don't sign that list, no radio." So he said, "Okay, fine." So I wrote my little conditions and I gave it to him. And he's doing that thing with his glasses, pretend he can't read it and all that sort of thing. And then he pulls out this big black marker pen, signs the letter, and goes, "Now you got to do it." And I just thought, shit. And but I called up my best mate Charlie and I said to him, "Mate, I've got some news. I've got us a radio show, and and yeah, we're going to be doing it." Blah blah. And there was complete silence on the phone. He just went, "Where and when?"
That's a
And
friend. Yeah.
yeah, so he was excited, and we came together and we called it the Charlie and Reese Show, and Joe let us have full control. We just talked about so many different things. We laughed about different things, and it was great. And then after I'd done it, I thought, you know what, this is actually really really fun, and I thought I actually wouldn't mind doing this as another career. And
Mm.
so I thought, plus it's media, so it's still kind of linked to the filmmaking side of it all. But instead of being in front of a camera, I'm just talking behind a microphone. And and then what happened was, because the radio show that I worked on fortunately got shut down, I wanted to do another show. So I was shipping around, and then there was another radio station called Seclo Sounds, and I joined there for a little while because I had another show called Friday Night In, and oh my God, the guy who run it was a complete arsehole. I seriously hated the guy. And he just took so much control. He kept doing that. He kept changing my songs. And it was just a nightmare. It was like I was working in a boot camp. It was
Mm.
ridiculous. So after a couple of months, I thought, do you know what? Screw this. I'm not staying here. So I just walked out and never made touch again. And then after it was finished, I had this. So the show I'm doing now, Madigan's Movie Music, I had that in my head not long after. So I moved to London to go to university. And I actually had this whole show in my head. Oh, what if I could interview actors and filmmakers and do that? And I went to my university radio place, but unfortunately, they said we don't have a slot for you to be in. We can't take it. So I said, okay, I'll go to other radio stations then. So I pitched it to other radio stations. I even sent a letter to BBC Radio One and stuff like that, and I told them and stuff. But unfortunately, no one wanted it. They said, look, movie scores, they're going to find that boring. Do you have anything with Justin Bieber and Taylor Swift instead? And I was like, do I look like a Justin Bieber or Taylor Swift fan? Really? So I thought the music industry has just gone downhill. Anyway, cut a long story short, so I didn't focus on the radio show in the end. I thought, okay, let's just go on the filmmaking, get university out of the way. Then COVID happened. Then I jumped into a personal job working in this coffee shop. But last year, I went for a bit of a mental health phase because my personal job was getting a bit too much for me, and it got to a point where it was really negative, and my mind was just completely going out of control. And I just thought I need to do something else than just going to work and just filming now and again. And I just, because through last summer my phase was just not going well. I didn't have a really good routine, and so as I was looking for another job, next thing you know, this Love the Beat radio sends me a notification and says, we're looking for volunteer presenters. Do you want to apply? And I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is a golden opportunity. Like, I have to go for this. So I quickly applied and I sent my CV, and I told them about the show and why they should hire me. I literally even put, please hire me, please take me on. Literally, I was begging them. And then amazingly, 2 days later, I get a phone call from the boss, and he's like, I heard you want to join our station. I was like, yes, please. And he was like, do you want to come in and pitch a show? I was like, yeah, I've got a show in mind. He's like, okay, see you then, bosh. And I was like, okay. And so I went down to the station and I met the two bosses, and I pitched the show, Madigan's Movie Music, and I told them all about it. And I said, look, it's this, that, and the other. And instead, what the other stations did, look at it and go, oh, that's boring. They looked at each other and was like, wow, this is original. Like, we haven't got anything like that. They were like, yeah, we'll take it. Come and do a pilot, and we'll see what you can do. And I was like, okay. So I went in and I did the pilot, and amazingly, they loved it and they took it on, and I'm still there. And it was just amazing that they accepted the show, and I just couldn't believe it because I honestly didn't have a clue what they were going to think. I mean, but the fact that they thought it was original, it was different, and they wanted it was just special to me. And so when I went to my personal job, I spoke to my manager and I said, okay, look, we're going to have a deal. I'll stay at this personal job, but you need to let me have every Friday off to do this radio show. And she just went on her phone and went, okay, done. And then that was it. And since then, life has been lovely.
Nice. Oh, I'm so happy. And for people who haven't listened to it, it's your own radio show. You sort of play music that is like soundtracks from films, talk about films that are in the cinema. You have guests on that are like other kind of creatives, like day-to-day creatives, and you get to hear about all people who are doing all kinds of jobs in different walks of life. And something I love about it is that sort of original aspect that you're talking to people who are juggling, creative lives like with also needing personal jobs and things like that. And it's really encouraging to tune in. So people should tune in on a Friday morning and hear you. Uh, but yeah, it's kind of tailing off of that. As we wind up, we're nearly at the end of the 20 questions. So looking kind of more future wise, but yeah, if you could give young Reese any advice, what would you tell him now that you are the future Reese?
I would tell him to leave school earlier.
Okay.
Because school was never a good place to be for me, mental health wise and everything. You know, school was just the worst part of my childhood. But once I left, life got better. So I would say to him, do you know what? Leave school, go and find yourself a job, and then go into the media stuff. And do you know what? Honestly, I can't. I did try that. I did try to quit school, but unfortunately, for some reason, despite the shit they made up about me, they still wanted me to stay for another year. So it just shows that they were really, terrible. But it's fine because do you know what? Saying about the past and the present, looking back now, I'm very happy where I am now than I was, say, 20 years ago.
Hmm.
20 years ago was when my mum and dad split up. We was about to move house. I was in a very bad state because I didn't like the change and it was really
Hmm.
horrible. And I didn't know what the future was going to hold for me because I was in a school I didn't like and I just cried every night and I felt very depressed. But as the years have gone on, I think, as I said, since 2009, life honestly has been an adventure. And I've had some good years and I've had some bad years still. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, COVID, we had that. And 2015 was a very odd year 10 years ago. It started off really bad, but it ended amazing. So, what I'm proud of is I've managed to survive the days I didn't think I would. And I'm
Mm.
still here. And along
Yeah.
the way, I have had fantastic support from my mum, my wife, Charlie, and Megan, and many other friends who I've come along the way who have showed that they accept me, respect me,
Mm.
and I love as well that I've kind of made my own life, and I've managed to do that
Mm.
without even noticing really, because sometimes you sort of look back and go, "Oh, I've
Yeah.
made it," and
Yeah.
I'm very proud of the human being I am today because I know that obviously when I was a kid, it was very hard for me to grow
Mm.
up in a very confusing world. But you know what? I think all that negativity has actually done me good because now I'm at that stage where you can say whatever you want to me, you can judge me, you can make up stories about me, you
Mm.
can say whatever you want about me. But you know what? I don't care anymore because there's nothing anyone can say to me now that's actually
Mm.
going to make me go, do you know what? Who
Yeah.
cares? Because now I'm at that stage where just because someone doesn't like me or they've got a problem or they're just having a bad day, why should it affect me?
Hmm. Yeah. It's in some ways helped give you that thick skin that you really need in the creative industry with
Yeah.
getting constant feedback. And thank you for being so honest in that, because there's definitely some other kids and adult children, like younger child versions of myself and things that could benefit from hearing that. So
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Uh, and last couple of questions. Who are some people that inspire you and why? You may have just touched on it, but also creatives, doesn't have to be creatives.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the number one inspiration that started this whole thing was David Attenborough. If it wasn't for him,
Mm, yeah, full circle.
I don't think I would have wanted to do media or film or editing and stuff. So David Attenborough was definitely the first one that really did kind of in a way inspire me to make this journey. In terms of filmmakers, Steven Spielberg, Stanley
Mm,
Kubrick, Alfred Hitchcock, Mike Flanagan. Yeah, I mean those guys, they just have made some incredible movies. Ari Aster as well. Jordan Peele, he's really become a
mm,
genius. And that I mean, there's those icons, but then again, because there's some new filmmakers that'll bring out something. I think, oh, do you know what? I'm going to follow his work or follow her work and
mm,
see what she brings because I liked that movie. And then they'll bring out something else. And I'll go, oh yeah, I'm going to, So the inspirations are definitely, yeah, there's big icons, but when I sometimes see a new film and I think, who directed that? And I find out who the director was, I think, yeah, I'm going to see what else they do. And if they come up with something else that's even better, then I'm going to follow their career from then on. And
Mm,
yeah, that's why I kind of just keep an eye out for the most unique creatives, and then I just sort
mm,
of follow in their footsteps.
yeah. And that is one of the benefits as well of how accessible things are now. There's, there's platforms, there's even YouTube and stuff. You can find so many of those creatives, all the people who didn't make it into Blockbuster those years ago.
Yeah.
But
Oh, the generation will never know how good
uh,
Blockbuster was. They
yeah,
missed out. They missed out completely.
they did. Poor them. You get one of these because I know it's something you and I can talk about all the time. But what's something you've seen lately that you can't stop thinking about? It doesn't have to be film, but yeah, something, some kind of art.
What do I think about that doesn't leave my head? Oh,
Yeah.
um, that's a really interesting question. A load of things do. Well, most of like right now, the sights of London,
Oh,
because basically I love that I can walk to work, go through Soho and Leicester Square and Piccadilly and Charing Cross, and know that this is my home.
yeah,
So that's always a pleasure to know that I can walk through a sunny London and go, this is my life.
yeah. Very left field. I love it. Very unique. Um, and with a classic question we all get, what's next? Goals and gigs. What do you have coming up? What do you want to have coming up?
So, as you know, I'm making my next feature film, The Bucket. Comes out 2nd of October. It's going to be premiered at the Curzon Soho. I'm really looking forward to doing it. I just filmed a scene today with a very funny actress, and oh my God, she delivered. I'm filming more tomorrow with Sammy, actually. He's playing a very funny character, which I cannot wait to see him do. I'm going to surprise him with a little ad lib that he's not going to expect tomorrow. So let's see how he does with that. But yeah, I'm really The Bucket's a dark comedy about a man who has a miserable life. He has a nan who's got dementia, so has an apple juice addiction, and he's got one best mate who apparently likes to talk about sex all the time. So yeah, 9 years of that would send you a little bit mad. So one day he decides to make a bucket list, and he wants to do something that's really going to make him feel alive and give him adrenaline. So he decides to commit a murder and get away with it.
Oh,
Question is, can he pull it
wow.
off?
Yeah. Oh, and we'll leave it there, but definitely intrigued. And when was that out again? Curzon.
2nd of October, Curzon Soho is going to be premiering. So tickets on sale very soon.
Hey, we'll see you all there. Nice. Awesome. Thank you so much, Reese, for all your time and your generous answers.
Thank you. And thank you for these amazing questions. I've really enjoyed them.
Yeah, no worries. 20 questions for 20 years. I think we did well.
We did very well. Thank you very much.
Thanks. You too.